Welcome everyone to the third ever episode of my podcast. My name is Sarah Watt and my podcast is called Consciousness Road Trip, and today I am joined by a very, 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 very awesome friend of mine, Viktor Anderson.
Hey. Good to be here. Thank you.
My pleasure. So Viktor doesn't know what we're talking about today. It's a surprise. I actually woke up this morning and got the awareness that I wanted to do a podcast with him. So I sent him a message and, the universe aligned, and here we are just a few hours later.
Yep.
And what I wanted to talk about today was patience and instant change.
Ooh. That's interesting.
So the reason behind this a little bit was we have both just been in a class in Melbourne, Australia with Dr. Dane here called the Symphony of Possibilities Training. Which we won't go into too much because it's kind of like an advanced access class. But if you want to find out more, I'll put some notes in some links in the podcast notes, and you can find out more about Dane on his website, drdanehere.com. But basically, it was kind of at two different parts of the class. But at one part of the class, Brendan Watt asked a question. They'd been running bars and watching Shawshank Redemption, the movie. And he talked about one of the characters having this patience with things. And I went and watched the movie right away. I think he was referring to Morgan Freeman's character anyway. He basically spends 3 or 4 decades in jail for murder. Every time he's up for parole, they deny his parole. And he just keeps doing his thing and having this enormous amount of patience for whatever was showing up for him. And then the other thing we talked about at the Symphony of Possibilities training was that this style of training that we were doing, this energy work that we do in Access Consciousness, just one small part of it, is the space where you can create instant change. So I was looking at those two things, and I don't know, for some reason when I thought of this podcast with you and I asked some questions around what would be fun to talk about, those words and energies matched you for me.
Huh. That's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because for me, I guess you're someone that has a lot of patience.
I mean, now that you say it.
I like your face. You're like, and you're also someone that can create very instant change as well. So that's why I'm throwing this little curveball at you to see, I don't know, and fuck, we can talk about whatever we want as well. But, we've been friends for, 3 or 4 years now or something. Yeah. And both of us have created a lot in our lives. So,
And the first thing that shows up for me now is patience. And then there's procrastination. Because there's that thing of yes, I know I'm capable of creating a lot. Mm-hmm. And fast when I choose it. Yeah. Leading up to the choice, though, could be seen as patience or something else.
It's funny because the other thing I looked at that I was going to almost do hands, which is this thing we do sometimes in Access or whatever. It's a fun way to choose something, where you're kind of choosing between two things and you say to someone, pick this hand or this hand. And the other thing, the other topic I was looking at was avoiding.
Right. Because that's kind of up in my world.
For me too. Yeah. And I think in the world in general. And
And it's interesting with words. What is patience for you, though?
Well, once upon a time, that word would have meant more patience being slow, boring, something that I never would have really cared too much about. It wouldn't be something that I would aspire to have. But when Brendan brought it up at the SOP, and then I went and watched that movie that night to see exactly what he meant. And it's so funny now, at the moment you're willing to be aware of something, just how much it can permeate through everything. So even just now, I was making some lunch before you arrived, and I just stepped into the energy of patience, because usually for me, even preparing food, I'm already in the next thing that's going on. So yeah, for me now, it's more a space of, being present in the moment more than anything else. And I'm still playing with it, so.
Right, cool. And there's if you do patience from question, I get that it can be such a gift to have.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of that character in that Shawshank redemption movie as well, because he is very patient, and there's something with that where if you're still being in the question of, okay, is now the time? What can I choose here? Can I change this? And then you'll get the awareness of what's possible now, or if it's for the future. It's like there's such a difference between patience and procrastination and avoiding, right? Yeah.
And I think with the patience thing as well, the thing that's also really coming up for me is not needing to know the result, but also having some sort of energetic awareness of, like, so at the SOP when Brennan asked about this, Dane started talking about like being a leader from patience, and like having this place where, because, you know, these people travel the world and facilitate these big classes, and obviously watch some of us take a long fucking time to choose things that they're kind of aware of we could just choose. Like, and them talking about then, like, where they see in people or in whatever they're creating, that there's such a future there.
Yeah.
And like, I guess this is where the example became really clear to me, and then the movie sort of really helped, was seeing where they all have that space of patience with facilitating their classes.
Right. And it's like patience from this reality of how I guess most people look at patience, is sort of like not from awareness also, where it's more the thing of like, you know, why even bother? Yeah. You know, I'm not sure how to put that into word, but what else is possible with asking the question, having the awareness, and then, you know, choosing whatever works and when it works. And then what becomes possible?
And I think the cool thing in Access too, like with word, like where it makes us, like it's really made me anyway, look at words and how people have used them, like maybe not forever, but at least for whatever, the last 100 years or whatever, that we've really morphed. Like, well, my language is English, I'm sure it's in all languages, but where we've really morphed the meanings of words to mean something different, to almost, I don't know, in a lot of ways kind of like slow things down or slow people down or something like that. And for me, yeah, patience was like a politeness, I guess I would look at, like, oh, you need to be patient, like someone being more like scolding a child, or, you know, you think of like, when I think of the word, I think of like an older person saying, oh, you need to be more patient with how you do things, where like to really look at the energy behind a word and then what you can use to create from there.
And it's almost from that point you would have to give yourself up even.
Oh, that's the other thing at the moment, is control. It's so funny. They were actually the three things I was looking at was, yeah. So, say more.
Well, words at this point, it's a little bit challenging.
Yeah.
There's a lot of change going on for me, for you, for the world, everywhere. Yep. And it's like, something else that's really up for me is reference points, and like, wow, if like when you create from what you've decided you are, and you have available, compared to what you actually have available, if you're being aware and if you allow yourself to know what you know. I saw a post today, man, and I can't really remember it, but it was sort of trying to find the right answer is what you do to avoid your knowing.
Yep.
So it's, what do we actually know? And with the words as well, like when we have decided that a word is something for us, and there's that energy connected to that word, what are we creating with that? Are we creating that exact thing that we've decided it is? Because that's all we can see? Yeah. You know?
Well, that's where all of your knowing and all of your awareness gets taken away as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
And even what you were saying about reference points then too, because if you're creating your life from reference points, so if you guys don't know, I mean, summarizing quickly, a reference point, I guess, is somewhere where, like, say for instance, you want to change something in your body, and the last time you want to lose some weight, let's say, and the last time you lost weight, you did a certain exercise regime and a certain diet. So you like, and I mean, this is kind of a bigger scope. It can be the most minuscule thing you can go to a reference point on, but just to give people an idea of what that is, that you create something again based on what's worked in the past or hasn't worked, either the same or the opposite. And like looking even at patience as like the energetic version of the word that we've been talking about up until now, if you are avoiding that and choosing and creating from your reference points, then you're basically never going to have that space of creating from a space of patience and from your awareness, because it's all negated, right?
And from being you, because it's like, what have you decided that you are?
Yeah.
And what are you, or what could you be, if you had no reference points or any conclusion or decision about what you are and what you have available and what you can choose. It's like if you've decided that you're not patient, that is probably what you're going to create. And it's like, I'm just realizing more and more how different I am. And the funniest thing is that difference is not at all what I thought it was.
Right.
So it's something completely different that I've never. It's not like being you from a decision on what you should be, even then, but truly exploring and making those choices that work for you. And then you can create yourself in every moment, which is so cool. Because then all of a sudden everything becomes available. And then when you have a decision in place, like, oh, I'm so impatient with everything, with my creations and my life and my relationships. But what if you weren't? And what is that to you?
And looking at the thing as well that came up then when you were saying you always saw yourself as different, like how much of that was actually other people telling you how different you were as well? Like I remember growing up, people being like, oh, you're so different, Sarah. And even now, like when people have that projection of you because you look different or you wear different clothes or you don't fit into the exact mold that you're meant to, and people are like, oh, you're so different. And then you start almost either aligning and agreeing with what they've said, or you do the fuck you thing and either try to be more different or like this whole thing as well about how much of our lives do we create also based on like what other people tell us is true about us. And we never, it's almost like we never have the space to figure it out ourselves.
Exactly, because if you're so occupied with proving how different you are, like what can you actually find out about yourself? Are you willing to be different in your own eyes? Like what if you're so different from your own point of view about yourself?
So say more about that. And like, because people here listening might have done some access, no access or whatever. So for you, just talking about Victor talking to Victor, like what is that? What is you, the difference of you, I guess, maybe?
Exactly, and that's what I'm really exploring and finding out all the time. And it's also ever changing. Because there's no one answer to that question either.
Exactly.
But it's going from what I had decided that I was, and I've been functioning a lot from proving. And this is just something that I become aware of the more I explore myself. And then the point is not to make myself wrong for that, but it's more like, whoa, what becomes available beyond that? If I don't have to prove even to myself that I am something, how surprised can I be of what I can be? And like what limitations can I let go of? And it's just such a freedom to not have to be in any certain way, or like to never have to, because like how much do we choose from that place of, oh, this is me, this is my image, this is what I've decided that I am, these are my morals and my rights and wrongs and all of this, and then you're immediately cutting off so much possibilities.
Everything. And even like with that, being around certain people as well, it's almost like I have had versions of myself. Like I know when I'm around these people that I'm this Sarah, and then I know when I'm around these people I'm this Sarah. Because for me, and talking about avoiding, and I know we've covered a lot in this podcast, so like if you're listening to this and you're a bit like, holy shit, we'll drop some more links at the end and in the show notes.
It's hard to stay on one topic.
It's very hard. And talking about the avoiding thing, for me, that I'm getting more and more the way I've created myself has been to avoid upsetting people. Or unless I wanted to really upset them, and then I was good at that too. But a lot of the time it was like, I don't want to cause upset in people's worlds. So when I'm with these people, I'll act this way, or when I'm doing this, I'll be this version of Sarah. Rather than being willing also to be seen as wrong or weird, or like, because you're around certain people, like your parents or your family, for instance, or whatever, like whoever it is, your boss or your lover or whatever, you go into this version of yourself because, for me anyway, the quote unquote fear was to invoke in them being like, what's wrong with you, or for them to ask me a question that was like, making me feel wrong in a way.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you willing to be seen as crazy and totally chaotic as well?
Yeah.
Because that's so connected to giving yourself up, and it's so instantaneous.
Yeah.
The way we do this.
Yeah.
Like, is it even 10 seconds from the moment you meet a new person until you've decided what you are to that person, what they are to you, and how your dynamic is, and then you have to maintain that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And you don't even know that person, and all of a sudden you are something that you've decided you have to be, but no one's asked you to be it, except you've decided that that's the way it is.
Exactly. And that's like cool in a way, because now I'm like, the other part of my fantastic title for this podcast was the instant change part.
Right.
Because the cool thing is, once you become aware of this stuff, like how could we, or what would you tell people listening, at any time in the future to this stuff comes up for all of us, like where can we go from that, acknowledging or being aware of it happening, to instantly changing it?
Yeah. And it's like we can always make a new choice.
Yeah.
Always. There's nothing stopping us from making a new choice. So it's oh man, I just had something and I lost it.
Happens to me a lot.
It's annoying, isn't it? But so if you recognize that you can always make a new choice, and not hold on to something that, because we go into this place of, okay, I made a choice and now I have no choice because that's the choice I've made, in regards to everything, in regards to how you show up in this world and your relationships and everything. And it's like, if that's not true, because it isn't, how much fun could you have with choosing whatever works in each moment? Yeah. And again, like, how willing are you to be surprised by what shows up with that? And
so for you, like when you do find yourself in that place where you are choosing that or doing that, what are the things that you do, or what works for you to create something different or to change it?
It's just mainly choosing way more kindness towards myself and vulnerability, and just being aware of what I'm choosing, and to catch myself way faster when something is not. Yeah. Because you never have to choose something that doesn't work for you. Yeah. That's actually, that's something that a lot of people are not really aware of. Well, at all.
We could do a whole nother 3 hours on choice, like it's surprising to me how little I knew what choice was.
Yeah, same.
And I'm learning.
I'm just starting to learn.
I feel like I'm like, at the stage of like maybe crawling or pulling myself, like the baby that's like just learning in life how to use its limbs and the things around it to move faster. Right. Choice to me is like still this place of like, because we think we've got this anyway, and I get like maybe we're like covering a lot in this, but yeah, like with choice as well being this place where, so I guess like, in a podcast, you guys are listening out there, if any of this feels light or fun for you, I would so encourage, I mean, you could obviously reach out to myself or Victor at any time, but also to really look into like the tools and the I don't even know what to call Access anymore. I used to call it a company or like it's really just a thing, like
it's amazing though.
Yeah. The playground. I'm going to call it a playground.
Yeah. I like
the playground that is Access consciousness, and see like what's available there too. Because really, as far as choice goes, it's one thing that will get you to a place to choose, because there is so much available within this playground that is Access consciousness. So,
and with this conversation, there's two tools out of this big amazing toolbox that I would like to mention here.
Good.
In regards to this, that's so helpful and creates a lot of ease for me. The first one would be light or heavy.
Cool.
Because that's just so simple. It takes me out, because I'm such a head tripper as well. And it takes me out of that place of trying to justify anything or trying to figure anything out or going into the right or wrong or what I can or cannot be in any situation. If I just ask myself, wow, is this light or heavy? And this is something that you'll learn the more you play with it, of like noticing, okay, so it's this light, and when something's light for me, that's the choice I want to make. When something's heavy and I just get that crunchiness in my world, that's not what I want to choose. So I'll go for the light. So that's the first one. And the other one is expanding out. I'm not sure if that's an official tool, I can't remember, but it's like getting out of the significance in any, so when something seems important or significant, I'll just expand out. And the way I do it, I just imagine myself going out in space outside my body. It might sound weird, but I get that perspective of almost looking down on myself, and that takes me away from that significance of anything where I pretend that I don't have a choice. Because then it's like, then instant change becomes available. Because it's like, so if nothing mattered here, if I couldn't make a wrong choice here, if anything that I choose will be awesome and it will create more awareness, what would I like to change and choose in this situation right now? And there's nothing stopping me except my decision that I can't. So just like taking that bigger perspective and looking at myself from the outside is so helpful.
It is actually, you learn that. I mean, I think it's one of the tools in Foundation or maybe even bars now where you do learn. And for me, that was one of the first tools of Access I ever learnt, that I was like, because, I remember hearing it and I think it was Dane or Gary, maybe it was on a recording of something, and they said, okay, expand out and go to the four corners of the room. And, like in meditate, like I remember I used to try and meditate, and I would be like, oh my God, I'm trying so hard to meditate. And I would make myself so wrong because I'm a head tripper like you, and I would be thinking constantly. But the thing I loved about Access was they would ask me to do something like this. It's done, basically. Like the minute, even before they ask, even before the words are formulated, usually we are so, aware of our capabilities and what we're actually what's available to us. It was done already, and I remember Dane or Gary saying, okay, go out to the four corners of the room, don't think about it, you've already done it. And I was like, holy shit, I have already done it. And then they'll like expand further and further and further and further. So thank you for that, because I think also people coming and first sort of being exposed, and even people that have been in Access for years, it's like, I think sometimes it can have this sense of like, what it's the choice thing, right? Like what can I choose here? What if you just chose anything too? Like what if it was just fucking choose something? And I wanted to mention too, like we talked a lot about starting to become aware of when you go to those places of your reference points, or when you're buying into other people's projections, or you're being a version of yourself. That for me, the thing that once I become aware of something, I like to ask a question. So like also for you guys listening, like question is ultimately the thing for me that changes absolutely everything. And it could just be a question like, am I being me right now? Or what just happened even?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck just happened?
It can even be like, what question can I ask right now?
Or what tool can I go to?
Yeah.
And just let the awareness show up, and let whatever, consciousness, the universe, whatever, show you what is available. And the cool thing is about choice, and what I'm learning is there's actually no such thing as a wrong choice. If you keep choosing, you'll keep creating.
Yeah, and if your point of view is that every choice creates awareness, you know, there's truly no wrong choice, because it will create some sort of awareness.
Yeah.
At the very least, it will create the awareness that that choice didn't really work, and then next time you can make another one.
And no matter what you believe, you know, in life, like whatever your points of view or beliefs are about, you know, previous lifetimes and the universe and all the stuff that, you know, people have their different points of view and beliefs about. Even if you just looked at this lifetime, however long you've been in this body, you know, 30 something years, 50 something years, 10 years, whatever it is, what if the patience side of things came in, where you could be patient with yourself to now recognize you were wanting to change some things, and be patient with how and when it shows up, and know that if you keep choosing and keep coming from this place of wanting greater and asking for more and choosing for more, that it will keep happening, and not have this thing of like, because I remember when I came into Access, like you talked about light or heavy, again, another tool that I'm still learning, you know, 9 years later.
Yeah.
It's like that for me is the patience, because I am like, I want it fucking yesterday. If you've told me something and I know it's available, and I don't think that's a bad thing, obviously, but it's also this place for me where patience is like total allowance for myself and what I'm creating.
Yes, and I was just about to say allowance. Like,
Yeah.
how much allowance can you have for yourself? And with all of this, like, that's so, like, all of this is interconnected and interlaced with everything.
Yeah.
And, like, the allowance goes hand in hand with patience for me, for sure.
Definitely.
And it's like, how much allowance can you have for yourself and your choices? And you don't have to make yourself wrong in every moment, you know, you actually never have to make yourself wrong, even though like it might be a standard operating procedure
for everyone.
At least if you're listening to this, because then you're probably one of those people like we are. We're always looking for something different, something bigger, and we're quite good at making ourselves wrong.
Definitely.
But we're not wrong.
No.
You know, even though we like to pretend that we are.
Yeah.
So, and it's like when you can go to the place of allowance for yourself, how much allowance can you have for everyone else as well?
Yeah.
And that, the way I see it, would create patience, because if you're not ever trying to prove anything with yourself or anyone else, or being right or being wrong, can you actually not have allowance then?
Yeah. And for me, like, just to sort of kind of start wrapping this up into a neat little package, as you know, it's so easy to do with this shit. But like talking about the allowance and the patience thing, for me, it's like where you have that space of allowance, you're ultimately going to function from a place of patience, and then to look at the instant change. For me, allowance and patience opens up a universe of instant change, because when you have allowance and patience, nothing can derail you in a way. Like nothing's going to kind of push you off that track of where you know you're going, even if that's not a cognitive thing. But if you have this space of allowance and patience, the moment something comes up, like we've talked about, where you go to those places of making yourself wrong or whatever it is, that you then have available the energy, the space, the question to change it straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just realized it's probably funny for a lot of people to have patience and instant change in the same sentence.
That's why I was like,
yeah,
but
I didn't even like, but you know, but it's so true. Like, so with choice, like it's you can have instant change, and you can change anything in every moment. And it's like, but if you don't have a point of view about the result, because you can create instant change to start taking you on a different path to wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
So like also having allowance for, okay, I'm making a different choice now, and recognizing what that creates.
Yeah.
But then really don't go into, oh, but why the fuck isn't I here yet?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and I guess that's where, because you look at instant change as opposed to, let's say, like ultimate change. I mean, to instantly change something, it's just changing it in that moment, right?
Right.
It's not saying like, I just changed it, so ultimately it's going to turn out this way or it's going to stay that way forever. It's just having that availability, that space to instantly change just that moment.
Yeah.
And what that changes next, well, that's not really up to you either. It's like, that's also where you've got to let go of the control of things too.
Right.
And just change it and keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the next moment, you'll choose something else and
Yep.
something different, and then you get to change that
Yep.
if that's not working.
Yep.
And that's what we get to do. That's life. That's playing. That's just enjoying.
And that's why I call it a playground, because for me,
Yeah.
it's like this constant thing of fun and anything being available and possible. So
Oh my goodness.
I know we could like seriously talk about this all day, because as you can see, we hate, talking about change and
Right.
possibilities and
And I'm just so grateful for the tools and for being alive and for having this sense of possibilities in my world
Yep.
that have playing with this creates.
Yep.
Because I look back in my life just a few years ago and it was not that.
Yep.
How how many of you guys listening have a sense of no possibilities?
Yep.
And what would become possible for you if you started playing with different choices?
Yep.
I'm happy, man.
Cool.
Yeah.
So if people were to look for you, where could they find you, or where will you be next, or what else are you creating?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm here in Australia, and otherwise I'm based in Stockholm, Sweden. Over there I'm doing different things, sessions. I have a foundation coming up in January in Stockholm.
Awesome.
So you can find that on my Access Consciousness profile page or my Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
And I have this business called House of Belluso together with my sister and her husband. So House of Belluso with .com. You can find me as well and
Cool.
check out where in the world we are and what we're up to. And
Cool.
yeah, I'll be in a lot of Access classes as per usual coming
Yes.
up as well in the stream team and making the choices that's fun for me. So
Awesome.
I'm always happy to connect and play with whoever is looking for something different.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being on here, and thank you everyone for listening, and I'll put some links and notes and things in the show notes. Well, let's go and enjoy some summer in Australia afternoon fun and shenanigans. We're about to kick off certified facilitator training here. We're in the very middle of the Australian tour. We've almost made it out the other side.
Holy moly.
So a little bit of change going on in both of our worlds. And please check out accessconsciousness.com. And what if you could have total patience and allowance for everything you're choosing and start stepping into what's possible with instant change.
That's so cool. And thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
You're awesome.
Thank you. You are too.
Thank you.
Bye everyone.
Bye-bye.